So, educated black men are under attack from black women. The so-called educated lames and nerds, those who are helping to progress society, those who are leaders, those who are teachers, those who help to run the country, those who help to build the country, those who are scientists, doctors, lawyers, all these men who have worked very hard to keep their grades up, to become educated, to become degreed men in their professions, in their fields, they're all coming under attack from black women. So apparently the educated lame story is back in the day, in high school, in college, while the educated lame was busy focusing on getting his grades up. Black women were too busy focusing on chasing thugs. Not only is that mostly true from high school and college, but women in their mid to late 20s, they're still chasing thugs. Black women in their 30s, they're still chasing thugs. Black women in their 40s, in their 50s, they're still chasing thugs. Repeatedly, they're getting pregnant by thugs, and these thugs end up in jail or dead, and then they replace them with another thug. And then by the time they get too old, too unattractive, too many children, too many financial issues, that's when they want a responsible man to help them raise their children. They want a responsible man to be married to. And the educated lames that they're finally turning to, they don't want them anymore. So now they're angry and they're lashing back at the educated lames who don't want to deal with them anymore because of their baggage and because of their love for thugs. The educated lame is saying goodbye to you. And now you're pissed off and you're making videos and you're attacking educated black men. You're not blaming the choices that you made. You're not blaming the thugs. You're blaming educated black men because they don't want you now. And so you're lashing out. I've been seeing quite a few videos on the educated lame that were created by black women, and this whole idea is just ridiculous. So what if the educated lame didn't have the women chasing after him back in the day? I mean, those days are over now. So what Lakeisha with the fat ass didn't want Daryl, she wanted Ray Ray. Fast forward to today, and guess who's chasing Daryl now? Damn near breaking her neck trying to get to Daryl. But Daryl's moved on. He's moved outside of the black community. He's with a non-black woman. He's getting treated better. And he'll probably never come back. And I hope he doesn't. I was watching a video by a young lady. I can't think of her name, but the video titled was something like Educated Lames Who Should Assert Themselves, or something to that effect. And she rattled off a few complaints about educated lames. And I hate using the term educated lames. I don't know who coined it. Like being an educated black man is a handicap or a hindrance. Even though most other races feel that being educated leads to success. They feel that being educated leads to a higher financial position in life, a better life, a healthier life. But for some reason, in the black community, being an educated person, an educated man, you're being despised. But just a few of the complaints that the young lady who created the video rattled off, I'll go through those. And some of those were how back in the day, a lot of the black women didn't want to get with the educated lame. And all the educated lames wanted to chase down the hood chicks with the fat asses. Even though when you're in the hood, that's pretty much all you have to chase are hood chicks with fat asses. Who else were we supposed to chase unless we ventured outside the black community, which wasn't very often, unless you moved out into the suburbs. And you might have gotten a glimpse of maybe Amy with a fat ass and you fall in love with that. So that point really didn't make any sense to me. Another point, she was saying that just because you're an educated lame, it didn't mean that you could end up being a top earner. And that might be true. You may not be the top earner, but you have the potential to be the top earner in your career. You have the potential to be highly successful in your career if you're an educated lame. Now you compare that to the thugs, and what type of potential do they have outside of being in and out of jail and putting babies in your belly? Babies in your belly that they won't take care of. And not just your belly, 5, 6, or 7 other girls' bellies. So that's another ridiculous point she rattled off. And then she talks about how back in the 60s, how black women have always chosen men who were rebellious and against the grain. And she bragged about how these men just stood out. And this is funny because she also starts to complain about how black women were getting pregnant and black men were leaving them. But she fails to mention the fact that the black men that were getting these black women pregnant were the ones she said stood out, and they were against the grain and they were rebellious. So there's another point that she rattled off that didn't make sense. So she goes on to say that educated lames should have been like these men who stood out and against the grain and should have demanded respect and promoted themselves and made themselves the standard so that they could be noticed by black women. In other words, instead of you working hard in school to maintain your good grades, instead of you trying to be a model citizen so you don't get a police record, in order for you to get noticed by some loose pussy, disease-infested black woman who's been fucking all the thugs in the neighborhood, in order for you to get their leftovers, you should be more like the thugs. So these women can notice you. Instead of working hard to get to college, to get the degree you want and get the career you want. And speaking of getting the degree and the career you wanted, this young lady says that those degrees, those careers, they don't mean anything because the white man gave it to you. The white man gave you the career. The white man gave you the education. So that doesn't mean anything. You didn't try to establish anything yourself. You didn't try to establish a business. So you just took what the white man gave you. And then she asks a question during her video. She says, is it black women's fault that educated lames didn't stand up and demand respect and promote themselves and become the standard? And my response to that is, it doesn't quite work that way. You see, there's always been a hierarchy in any group or subgroup of people. Unfortunately for us black folks in America, smart people and fat people were at the bottom of the totem pole when it came to popularity, or at least near the bottom. But as you got higher up on the totem pole and more popular you became, that's where the bad boys were at. And usually they ended up at the top. So to answer your question about, is it black women's fault that educated lames didn't stand up and demand respect and promote themselves and become the standard? The answer is no, because black men nor black women created the so-called hierarchy. The American culture created this hierarchy. So we as black people, we just mimicked what we saw white people do. So she goes on to say, in the nutshell, that educated lames didn't do anything to stand out, to make black women want to chase them. But here's the thing, they did. When the educated lames excelled in education, that was a huge signal for potential, a huge signal for potential to be successful in this country. I mean, what were the educated lames supposed to do to get black women's attention? Rob a bank, sell drugs, do drugs at school, skip school, give the teacher a hard time, become bullies, fight every day? Because I'm sure that all these things are a guarantee that the educated lame would graduate high school with straight A's, get into the college of his choice, and excel in his career, right? With all these negative issues on his record. Attracting some loose pussy ass black woman who's been thrown around from thug to thug is not worth it. You know, unfortunately, it's a lot of smart, educated black men who pretend to be dumb thugs just to get the attention of black women, just so they can be a part of the cool crowd, just so they can be recognized by black women. You have to make yourself lower than dirt just to be recognized by black women? Is that what you mean by asserting yourself and demanding respect and promoting yourself? She goes on to say that without white men promoting us, we wouldn't have anything. She says that educated lames just expected black women to just flock to them because the white man gave you a job. Like you didn't struggle through school to maintain good grades all the way through college. You didn't sacrifice anything to get to where you are. You didn't fight to get that position that you earned. You didn't fight to get that raise that you earned. Everything was given to you because, that's what white people do. They just hand out jobs to educated black men out of the kindness of their hearts. So then she talks about how arrogant educated lames are, thinking that black women were going to run to them. But check this out. Black women run to thugs who don't even have the potential to be successful, not legally. And most of them don't even have the potential to be successful illegally, because most of them don't become successful illegally. But you're running to them because they have swag. They show leadership. They show dominance. They show you what a real man is. Why is it that when these dumbass women talk about educated lames, the first image that comes up in their brain is somebody like Steve Urkel? These men don't all fit in the same box as Steve Urkel. I mean, you got different types of educated lames. A lot of them have charisma. A lot of them are handsome. They're funny. They have great personalities. But just because they're not the hardcore thugs. I mean, Lauren London said it herself. She said that the actress Lauren London, you never heard of her? Okay. She said that the only type of guy that attracts her are the hardcore thugs, the drive-by thugs, the gang thugs, the dope dealing thugs, the no future baby creating thugs. That's who she's attracted to. And she really opened a lot of eyes to a lot of people who just thought that hood girls only like thugs. But you see, the suburban women like thugs too. All black women like thugs, whether they want to admit it or not. And because of this issue, of course, educated lames, they decided to gravitate toward other races of people. They find they have a lot in common other than their race when it comes to other races. So oftentimes they become involved with women who are not black because they have something in common outside of race. And let's not forget, these so-called educated lames that you try to put down, these are the Barack Obamas. These are the Lester Holts. These are the Will Smiths. These are your black mayors, your black congressmen, your black engineers, your black scientists. They're working behind the scenes doing big things as far as technology, as far as medicine, as far as improving the entire world. But these are the men you want to put down in place of men that just fill jail cells. And it's a revolving door, in and out of jail, back in your pussy, out of your pussy, in another jail, back in your pussy, back in jail, creating babies. But hey, they're strong leaders, right? They stand out, they assert themselves, and that's why you love them. It's sad because, like I said before, educated lames, they play a critical part of what keeps this country great and successful. But you want to focus on why they didn't stand out like the thugs did back in high school, back in college, back in the hood. And you want to try to put them down because of what happened 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. But guess what? The majority of these educated lames, they've made something of themselves and they have contributed positively to society. And what are black women like you trying to do? Bring them down by talking about what happened to them years ago. Well, guess what's happening now? You're just pissed off because the educated lames don't want to give you the time of day. You're pissed off, and a lot of black women are pissed off because that great income they're getting, it's not going to your household. You're probably on welfare. You're probably struggling with your baby daddy for him to get a job so you can collect child support. But he won't get a job because he's a street dude. He's a street thug. You're angry that the thug that nutted in you and nutted in your friend and your cousin and got you all pregnant, he either can't get a job or he can barely get a job because of his police record. Hey, but that dick though, right? He's working that dick pretty good, right? That's all that matters. And that swag. Man, he's always got fresh shoes. He's always got new shoes. But he never buys your children anything. So now you're looking for a responsible man now, right? Yeah. Them educated lames are not even looking your way. Yeah, he's working that dick all right. So good, he's got 7 or 8 baby mamas. And y'all are fighting over him on Facebook Live, Instagram Live, all other social media, talking about when my baby get out of jail, I'm going to be waiting for him. What a sad existence for black women. Can you believe it? Fighting his other baby's mamas on Facebook Live, and they're filming the whole damn thing, and the dumbasses are forgetting that all that footage could be used to put their asses in jail. It's crazy. I've seen videos where one baby mama will go over to another baby mama's house to fight them, sometimes to shoot them, arguing about who's going to pick up the baby daddy from jail. But you know what? I want to thank you. I want to thank you and all of the other black women who refused the educated lane in the past, which helped them get to a brighter future. I know you want to ask, if educated lames are so happy, then why are they making videos and complaining about black women not choosing them? Well, the same reason why I'm responding to your video, to set the fucking record straight. Most of these videos by the educated lames complaining about black women and thugs, they are response videos to black women complaining about black men. And who they're really complaining about is the thugs in their lives who beat on them and cheat on them and infected them with all types of diseases. It's funny, a black woman will make a video in a heartbeat talking about all black men ain't shit and all black men ain't that, but they never address the thugs. They never address the poor choices in men. It's like it's all men's fault, including the educated lane, according to black women. It's like the thug, all he has to do is pull out his dick and your legs just magically fly open. You had nothing to do with it, right? Wasn't your decision to get nutted in to prove to his other baby mamas that you're the main chick, right? So you made a video about how educated lames failed with black women. Well, guess who's winning now? And that bothers you, right? The educated lames are winning now and they're not choosing you as their wives or girlfriends. That makes you mad. So you want to talk about the past and what happened 5, 10, 20, 30 years ago with the educated lame. To try to put him down and make him feel bad. You know, every time I go to McDonald's and I see a 35, 40, 45-year-old black male behind the counter, behind the cash register, behind the grill, dropping fries, who's not the manager, I think to myself, man, I bet he was popular in high school, but I guess I'm wrong for bringing that up, right? Well, at least he's got a job and now you can get child support. Yep, thugs nowadays are doing big things because they asserted themselves and they stood out. And now they're standing behind the counter making those delicious Whoppers. And another issue I'm having with black women who are apparently ahead of the pack when it comes to contracting HIV and other STDs and STIs. It's because of the sexual choices that you've made. You're dealing with men that are in and out of jail, in and out of prison, having gay prison sex and not telling you what's really going on because he don't want you or his boys on the outside to know he was probably somebody's bitch. And that constant rectum bleeding and anyway. But maybe all that thug had to do while he was in prison is assert himself, right? Stand out from the crowd and become the standard, right? Is that what he's doing in prison? If you, black woman, if you're going to promote an image or an idea of what a man you think is supposed to be to attract women, don't turn around and stab yourself in the foot by saying and complaining about the negative ramifications of being that type of man. Then blaming the negative traits of that particular black man. I'm talking about thugs. You're blaming those traits on all black men. Then you want to say all black men are no good because of the poor choices that you made. And then you want to talk about educated lames who feel entitled and who are arrogant because they feel that black women should flock to them because they're educated and they're career minded. Let me explain something to you. Most men, no matter what the race, they become educated. They become career minded. They get these great jobs or great careers so they can establish themselves financially so that they can have the beautiful woman, eventually their beautiful wife that they want. So they can eventually have the nice car that they want, live in a nice neighborhood that they want. And this goes across the board, men of all races. Why do you think white men, once they get rich, they buy an expensive car? They get these big houses. They buy these expensive watches and suits so they can attract beautiful women. Why? Because they worked hard for it, for the most part, unless they inherited something from their parents or a relative. But for the most part, they worked hard for it. They finally got the job. They're making 6 or 7 figures. They have the house, the car, and they can finally get the beautiful women that they want. And the women are flocking to them. So you see, it's not just the educated lames that do this, but you want to call it being arrogant. It's just being smart. But here's the funny part. Once again, you're contradicting yourself because the so-called thugs that you all love, they do the same thing when they amass their drug money. They don't amass wealth. They just amass money. They get expensive Jordans. They get expensive jewelry and ropes around their neck and their grills in their mouth. And they make sure they put rims on their cars. Some of them get houses. Some of them do. The ones that are not living with their baby's mama in the hood. But you want to blame all that on the educated lames. Only the educated lames, only the educated black men do that. And you want to call them arrogant and entitled. When men get real money, real wealth, they do get a little arrogant and they do feel entitled because they want the best. They want the best of everything. They want the best women. They want the best cars. They want to live in the best neighborhood. They want the best houses. They want their children to go to the best schools because they worked hard for it. And yeah, they may get arrogant and they may feel entitled, but they worked for it. But the thugs who do it, you jump all over their dicks. And why aren't you more ashamed that the thug feels more entitled and arrogant, even though he's making his money illegally? So basically, you want to just put down the educated lame and you want to praise the thug, and you feel that the thug deserves more of your attention because he's more assertive. And that's fine. Just keep on raising their children by yourself, you and his other babies' mamas, and stop looking for educated lames to embrace you and your little thuglets. Stop looking for educated lames who didn't assert themselves, who didn't promote themselves, and who didn't stand out enough to get your attention. But guess who's trying to get the educated lame's attention now? I got a quick story. My story is a little bit different because I was on both sides of the coin as far as being a black man in America. I was in both extremes. I was the smart guy in school, made sure I maintained great grades. I was picked on. I kept to myself. The women didn't like me. And then I got around the wrong crowd and I became a thug, a hardcore thug. And then after that, for some reason, women started gravitating towards me. So I know how it feels to be on both sides of the issue. But the right side of the issue is on the side of the educated lames, and that's where I'm going to stay. So back to this quick story. Years ago, I was with a friend, and he went over to his girlfriend's house. His girlfriend had a sister who was single. She was a pretty young lady, and she had never saw me before. It was the first time we had ever seen each other. So went over to my friend's girlfriend's house, and her sister was there, and we introduced ourselves to each other, and that was about it. I mean, she kind of looked at me, and then that was the end of it. I can tell she wasn't interested in me because I didn't have the thuggish look, and that's cool. I was cool with that. I talked to my friend and asked him about his girlfriend's sister. I said that she wanted to hook up or maybe go out sometime, and he just sighed like, she said no. I said, wow, why? She didn't say. All she said was anybody but Kenpachi. That's my YouTube name, Kenpachi. Anybody but Kenpachi. I said, wow, I never did anything wrong to this young lady. So it was obviously the way I looked, as far as not having my pants sagging down below my butt, not having tattoos, speaking proper English, all of those things she was not attracted to. So I just left it alone. So let's fast forward to maybe 2 years later. I run into my friend again and we catch up, and I take him over to his girlfriend's house, and his girlfriend's sister was there. And when I see his sister, she had put on about 35 pounds, 40 pounds. She had a child. Her reaction when she saw me was totally different. She was so friendly. Oh, hi, Kenpachi, how are you doing? She engaged in conversation with me and everything. Well, she tried to. But you know what I did? I looked at her the same way she looked at me the first time we met. And I just got quiet and looked away and waited on my friend, and then we left. And that was the end of it. So I'm going to wrap this video up by saying this. You know, it's really a horrible situation when a black man in this country that's been oppressed, his ancestors been oppressed, you finally get a chance to work hard, to go to college. You might have been the first in your family to go to college. You might have been the first in your family to get a successful career. You might have been the first in your family to be at a great financial status that you've worked hard and earned for yourself. But to know that there are black women who know where you come from, know where you're trying to get to. They're not rooting for you. They're trying to tear you down. And they're trying to tear you down and make you feel like shit. That's what bothers me. That bothers me about black women. I'm on the verge of saying you should just leave black women alone, all of them. I'm on the verge of saying that, but I'm not going to say that right now. I have hope for black women. I have hope for black women, and I'll just keep that hope alive. Comment, subscribe. If you have any other suggestions for videos I should talk about, anything on the horizon that you'd like my opinion on, let me know. I'd really appreciate it. And I know this video went a lot longer than I normally go, but I really appreciate your time.